What is up, everybody? It is me, DevilNeverCry, and in this video we're going to be playing through DMC5's Mission 4 on Dante Must Die mode. Of course, playing as Lady, so to speak. This is actually a character skin swap of Dante, obviously, as you can see by the HUD elements. Nonetheless, though, it is a pretty neat little mod that manages to sort of mix things up in just the way that DMC5 is lacking in its vanilla game. But in regards to the rest of the mods we're playing with, I'm of course using the cheat engine, or the trainer, which allows you to mess with things, so that I've got things like 2 sky stars or 2 trick ups. I've also got turbo mode going on, of course, as standard. We are messing around, of course, with the inertia mod as well. All little things that sort of add to the experience of DMC5 on PC. But yeah, this is going to be a little bit of the old rusty gameplay. I'm not really used to playing with Dante, with enemies that are as aggressive and have as high health. Normally, when I'm playing with Dante, I like to just mess around in the void, string things together, and the enemies in there tend to be quite passive. So yeah, I haven't really got too much experience, but in regards to stylish play, so to speak, so everything you're going to be seeing is just me playing somewhat for efficiency, I guess. Again, this is Mission 4, a mission that you usually play as V, but we've got Dante in here in the mix. Again, it's a character swapper mod, lets you essentially play, I believe, almost all the missions with whatever character you want. I don't think there's any sort of restrictions or anything, which is pretty cool. Again, something that I wish was in the vanilla game, as there are a lot of you on console that are sort of miffed or annoyed, so to speak, whenever I tend to put up a showcase, a mod showcase, and people always complain about not being able to access them on console. And I feel you. I was a console player only at one point. But again, as I've said before, with this game I sort of had to just make the transition to PC, because the game essentially for me at this point would be dead without all these mods, unfortunately. But yeah, not really much to go on in this mission, other than we're going to be speedrunning. Well, we're not going to be speedrunning in that sense, but we're just going to be making a beeline from encounter to encounter, or the mandatory ones at least, and then skipping all the superfluous ones and getting straight to the boss fight, which again handles like trash with this character. Seems as though it wasn't really made for anybody else other than V. But I'm not really a big fan of the boss at the end of this chapter. But you got the behemoths here. They are always a pain to deal with, so do be careful. My main goal here is to just strip them of their armor and then immediately hit them with some real impacts. But I managed to get some hands-on gameplay this previous weekend with Final Fantasy VII Remake. You had EGX happen throughout the entirety of last weekend, so expect a video on that shortly. I just wanted to sort of go over my thoughts on that game, or how it's shaping up to be, but that is not for this video. But yeah, do keep an eye out on that. Because I remember somebody asking me, does it play like DMC at all in terms of responsiveness? And yeah, that's a hard no. But yeah, I'll be delving into that soon, so keep an eye out for that video as we take on some of these bats. Again, Dante's got quite a lot of aerial options. I'm playing with a loadout I don't normally actually play with all that much. I've got Cavalier here, and I've got the dual Kalina Ans, because of course if we're playing as Lady we need the dual Kalina Ans. I usually tend to just stick with just the Rebellion and the Balrog and Cerberus as my main devil arms, and then I usually run with Ebony and Ivory and the Coyote shotgun. Don't really mess around with the Faust Hat all that much. That is a gimmick weapon if I've ever seen one myself. Super overpowered. As we move on to an encounter which would normally start off with some sort of crash as Nightmare rains down, but nope, we've just got some standard Impulses and some Halcanas. I believe this is probably, this is not a skippable encounter. I've tried to skip them before, but I ended up being pleasantly surprised with a barrier, from what I can remember at least. But yeah, as I've said, it's been quite a while since I've done this on Dante Must Die, much less this mission with this character. But you guys know I was never going to play as V in this playthrough throughout, because that is a strange character for me. Strange character for many, in fact. You know, gameplay that's I guess somewhat refreshing, or I wouldn't say refreshing. I'd say somewhat different from what we're used to. But upon repeat playthroughs on the higher difficulties, the flaws in his moveset and what he can do really start to rear their head. And yeah, the tools you're given start to become a hindrance, amongst other things. But we've taken those enemies out. We've got one Helicanor left here just chilling on the bridge because he's got nothing else to do with his goddamn life other than cause an inconvenience to us. But yeah, we end up just taking this dude out with some honeycomb fire, and we continue on our merry way. This, of course, is going to be another S rank. S ranks, well, for the majority of this game, are fairly easy to attain. There are the few outliers, though, where S ranks are ridiculously hard to attain because of the way that they've got the style point system essentially working in this game. To put it short, the game essentially takes an average of all the encounters you fight, both mandatory and non-mandatory ones. Meaning that the way that some of these enemy setups are basically laid out means that you are going to hinder yourself with some encounters, which means that some encounters are worth skipping, others are worth essentially milking. I've seen some people actually carry enemies from one encounter to another just to somewhat build their style points or keep it to an average, because if you want to get the S rank on this difficulty, I believe it's 6,000 points minimum. So that means if you're going to go for the no continues multiplier of 1.2, you're going to have to get at least, I believe, 5,000 points, which doesn't seem so bad. But then you start to get into difficulties like Hell and Hell, where you die in one hit, so you essentially can't take damage whatsoever. At the same time, you have to play stylishly and efficiently, and that is going to lead to a lot of reset runs, as some of you may have seen if you've been around since this game launched, where I covered Dante Must Die and Hell and Hell live, actually, so you guys saw all the pain that came along with that. But yeah, the way the style points and the average system work out is a little strange. So you've got certain missions like Mission 8, Mission 10, 11, and 12 in particular, where they are super annoying. Or even this mission and Mission 5 on Hell and Hell. Taking no damage with V, considering his limited moveset, is very tricky, considering that you have no fuck you moves. Essentially, you have nothing to essentially decimate enemies, and you gotta do it the old-fashioned way, where you just gotta chip their health down bit by bit, and it tends to get to be a bore. And then once you get bored, that's when you start to get sloppy. You want things to be over and done with, and that's when you start making mistakes. And we all know mistakes lead to resets. As I skip through all of those enemies, they are not compulsory, so skip right to them. This is a compulsory encounter. You're going to have a Antinora spawn, and you're going to have a Hell Judeca. You want to be careful of the Judeca because they obviously can spawn in other enemies. The Antinora, I believe there's 2 Antinoras. Well, I might be remembering wrong. No, there's it seems as though there's only 1. But I've been in this encounter before, and there have been 2. I'd imagine the Judeca actually spawns them in. But you want to just go for the Antinora basically as quick as possible. They are the fodder enemy essentially in this fight. They will be the ones that are nipping at your heels whilst you try and take on the big bad dude, the Judeca himself. So just separate the wheat from the chaff, get this guy into a corner, beat him worse than his father did, to put it in a morbid way, and then focus on the Judeca. I don't really have much else to say in regards to this enemy other than try and attack them after they've already done an attack animation, and then wail on them. Because if you try and attack them before they've started an attack animation, they'll often end up teleporting, meaning you can only get maybe one hit and then they just disappear. The Cavalier does fairly well. It does multiple hits and it seems to do a fair amount of damage, staggers them. So yeah, don't be afraid to, well, to use the Cavalier, which we saw get the finishing move right there. And then we've got the boss fight. And I believe this boss fight lasts, what, 4 minutes? It is 4 minutes of me essentially shooting this boss to death, which is a shame, but very apt considering playing it as Lady, even though when you pop the double trigger, it of course reverts back to Dante. Basically, the way that this boss works with his character, taking out all of the tentacles tends to be a bit of a hindrance in regards to stunning the main sort of tentacle so that you can do damage. So what I essentially do here is I just double jump and I just start wailing on him with a Cavalier. Eventually that's not going to work and I'm just going to swap to hit him with the Kalina and even the shotgun. I think the shotgun does the most of the damage for this encounter. But I'm just not really a big fan of this boss. Of all the things they could have done, this is not what I had hoped it would be. Maybe they're trying to, I don't know, channel some sort of Cerberus, in a sense that obviously Cerberus is in this game, King Cerberus, and that's an entirely different boss fight, but I mean DMC3 Cerberus, where you've just got a wall for a boss, where at certain times you can and can't do damage, and they are as aggressive as all hell. If you want to do a significant amount of damage, you have to end up chipping away at some of the heads, or in DMC3 it was the ice you had to chip away from. But yeah, as you can see, this is a bit of a tedious boss. But yeah, I've sort of been covering some other games at the moment, whilst this goes off in the background. I've been really enjoying my time with Resident Evil 4, which I'm hoping we shall conclude those streams sooner rather than later, so to speak. And I've got some other stuff coming on the channel. I believe we're covering Tekken very soon, which is a Capcom licensed game. Some of you may have heard it, some of you may have not. I am a Team Tekken ambassador, so yeah, expect a fair amount of that coming soon, as we end up still wailing on this boss, not really doing all that much damage. But yeah, it's been an interesting amount of drama on the DMC subreddit at the moment, in regards to there being an influx of shitposts, which I see plenty of people tweeting about all the time, which is, you know, it's I guess the annoyance is understandable considering people do post a lot of you know, interesting things that attempt to engage with the community on that subreddit, but that doesn't really tend to get as much attention as a, you know, a shitpost, a worn out meme, so to speak, which tends to get thousands of upvotes. But yeah, that's been all over my Twitter, which has been interesting to see. But hey ho, I guess maybe the hype for this game has potentially died down. I guess it released at this point, what, 7 months ago. It had a good run, so to speak, but yeah. I guess for some people the hype is gone and people have started to move on. Speaking of moving on, we have got Death Stranding coming out November 8th, which I am glad to be picking up. That is going to be interesting. Absolutely hyped for that game. I'm wondering what exactly it is. There's been a bunch of spoilers floating around online, which I haven't really taken a look at. I don't think I will as I pop the SDT here. At this point, I'm getting fairly impatient with this shit, where I'm just like, you know what, sod all of this. I'm just gonna go for the maximum damage output. And of course, the boss is devil triggered, and we get to this stupid phase where there's 3 of him, and then there's all this nonsense. And the cleaner Anne starts to do the work, and I end up trying to go for a I don't even know, a cinematic finish, so to speak, but that doesn't really end up working out all that well. I believe we end up just shotgunning the dude to death eventually. Or maybe even the ebony and ivory, I'm not too sure. I think it is the shotgun that does him in the end though. Oh no. Contradicting myself constantly here, aren't I? But oh, for the cheeky cavalier. That is essentially going to be this boss done. We ended up taking him out with the ebony and ivory. Yeah, we get the cutscene, we get the S rank. But yeah, that is going to do it for this mission. Stay tuned for more DMC. Be sure to subscribe as there is always more DMC content on the way. It has been me, DevilNeverCry. I would like to thank all of you for watching, and as always, I'll see you all next time.